Kansas Corn Commission is excited to bring to you this clarification video over case AFNR 615 Clean Smoke. The Clean Smoke Lab does a tremendous job demonstrating in real time the importance of renewable fuels and the clean burning emissions that ethanol brings to the consumer. At the end of this lab, students should know that the efficiency of energy and the amount of energy produced varies among resources. Students will be able to demonstrate this knowledge through comparing the energy content of two common fuels used for energy production. In this case, we're using a renewable fuel in ethanol and a fossil fuel in kerosene. As you wear your teacher hat, there are three main takeaways that students should get from the Clean Smoke Lab. First, there are trade-offs for fuel types. Kerosene produces more heat and is more fuel efficient. However, ethanol is cleaner burning. There is a need for a cleaner burning fuel, and ethanol is that cleaner burning fuel and is a renewable fuel source where fossil fuels are not. There are several pros of using ethanol. First, it burns cleaner. This is not only better for the environment, but is cleaner for the engine as well. Ethanol is a renewable fuel source. We will be able to continue to grow corn well past when our fossil fuel resources are depleted and not able to be processed anymore. In Kansas, ethanol is a local industry. We produce 7% of the corn used in the United States, while we also feed a lot of cattle. Using ethanol has a byproduct in a dried distiller's grain that can be used for animal feed. So we're not taking that feed away from the animal per se, it's helping two sources. And ethanol is also a cleaner source or cooler source of fuel. While that can be looked as a disadvantage in terms of efficiency in BTUs produced per volume unit, it can also be nicer in some elements. Take a look at this chopper stationed in front of the Garnett ethanol facility. This chopper was made by American Choppers and was shown in the 2018 season in episode number 4, titled Mental Health. This chopper was made for the Renewable Fuels Association and runs on E85. American Chopper has stated that this engine runs cooler than any other of their choppers that they have ever made. Imagine if you were sitting on that bike. Wouldn't that be a pro? There are also some cons to using ethanol. Ethanol is a less efficient fuel in terms of energy per volume. It also increases the volatility of gasoline when blended. So if you have an E10 fuel, that means it's 10% ethanol, 90% gasoline. Gasoline is already a volatile fuel and will break down over time. That's why you're recommended to remove gasoline from any small engine such as a lawnmower or a UTV that you're not going to be using over the winter months. You're going to remove that fuel because it's going to break down and become volatile. Or you can stabilize it. Ethanol does increase that volatility. But here's the flip side to that argument. It is a good practice to never accumulate 5 gallons of fuel for a push mower that's not going to take even a gallon of fuel. Because even if it was just gasoline without any ethanol within it, that fuel is still going to break down before you get to use it all. It is also widely claimed that ethanol is bad for small engines. For instance, like a lawnmower, because the alcohol within it is bad for the gaskets and hoses. And for a while, this was true. However, engines that are manufactured today follow ASTM guidelines for the gaskets and the hoses that should meet the use of those ethanol blended fuels. There's an ethanol production myth that ethanol takes more energy of inputs than it does to outputs. Now, this was true about 30 years ago, but that data is a common belief for a lot of people. However, right now we're getting about 2.6 BTUs of output for every BTU of input for grain-based ethanol. And we expect to see a big boom in that in the next 20 years to get more efficient. Ethanol is used in gasolines in several sources and is never a straight fuel, but is a blended fuel. It is common to see E10s or E20 fuels, or even E30s or E85s. What the E means is ethanol, and the number behind it is a percentage, and that's a percentage of the gasoline. To use an E85, you're going to have a vehicle with flex fuel, but you can use E10, E20, or even A30 without having a flex fueled vehicle. There are two different kinds of ethanol. There's grain-based ethanol such as corn and cellulose-based ethanol. Cellulose has longer glucose chains than corn. Corn has 6. Cellulose has 100 to 1,000 glucose chains, and therefore takes a little bit more energy to be able to break that down, and is not as efficient right now as corn-based ethanol. Corn also can be used to make renewable diesel. It's different from biodiesel, and it is currently very popular on the West Coast because of emission regulations. It can run in all diesel engines and does not need any changes and can be run at much higher concentration, whereas biodiesel can only be mixed at 7% and has much better cold storage. We are currently producing renewable diesel within Kansas and shipping it out on a rail to states such as California.